If you slow down for just a moment in a crowded city, really slow down, you'll start to notice something unsettling in the eyes of the men walking past you. It's not weakness you see at first glance. It's something quieter, something heavier. A look that says, "Please don't notice me." This is the silent epidemic of the modern world, and almost no one talks about it. If you walk through the crowded streets of any major city, New York, London, Tokyo, and you actually look at the men passing by, a haunting pattern begins to emerge. It has nothing to do with their clothes, their shoes, or the expensive watches on their wrists. It lives in their eyes. A subtle, apologetic desperation. A look that feels like an unspoken apology for merely existing. It is the look of a man who has spent his entire life trying to take up as little space as possible. A man who walks with his shoulders hunched forward, unconsciously shielding a heart he believes is too fragile for this world. A man who smiles when he is insulted. A man who laughs when he is mocked. A man who apologizes when someone else bumps into him. This man has a name. He is the nice guy. He is the most common archetype of the modern era. You see him everywhere. He is the employee who stays late on a Friday night fixing a mistake he didn't make, quietly hoping his boss will finally recognize his worth. He is the friend who listens to hours of emotional dumping, night after night, secretly hoping that patience will one day be repaid with love. He is the partner who swallows his own desires, his opinions, even his anger, because deep down he believes that if he shows his true self, he will be abandoned. And the tragedy is this: he truly believes he is a good man. He defines his morality not by what he does, but by what he refuses to do. He doesn't get angry. He doesn't start conflicts. He doesn't offend anyone. He doesn't take risks. He tells himself, "I'm not like those toxic men. I'm safe. I'm virtuous. I'm nice." But hidden inside that belief is a catastrophic error. A single corrupted line of code. A lie that slowly rots him from the inside out. Because nice is not the same thing as good. If you trace the etymology of the word nice, it comes from the Latin word nescius, which literally means ignorant or unaware. In the Middle Ages, it meant foolish, even stupid. It was never a word of strength, never a word of honor, never a word associated with power or virtue. Being a nice guy is not a moral achievement. It is a survival strategy. It is a defense mechanism, developed by a frightened child who learned early on that the safest way to survive a chaotic, critical, or demanding environment was to be perfect, compliant, and invisible. The nice guy is not kind because love overflows from him. He is kind because fear paralyzes him. He is terrified of rejection, terrified of conflict, terrified of his own shadow, and because his behavior is driven by fear, it is not true goodness at all. It is cowardice, carefully disguised as morality. Think about a harmless rabbit. The rabbit does not attack the wolf. It does not harm anyone. But is the rabbit virtuous? Of course not. The rabbit is harmless because it is weak. It has no choice. It lacks the capacity for danger. Now picture a warrior standing guard at a gate. He carries a sword. He is capable of violence. He is capable of destruction. Yet he keeps his sword sheathed. He chooses peace, not because he is weak, but because he is disciplined. He is prepared for war, but he does not seek it. That is virtue. Virtue requires the capacity for danger. The nice guy, however, has psychologically castrated himself. He has thrown away his sword and convinced himself that being harmless makes him holy. But the real world, the world of biology, business, and human polarity, does not reward harmlessn. It consumes it, and this is the silent tragedy. The nice guy does everything right. He follows all the rules. He plays the game exactly as he was taught. And still, something feels deeply wrong. And that feeling is the beginning of the awakening. What happens next is where the quiet tragedy truly begins. He becomes the perfect student, the obedient son, the endlessly supportive friend. He waits in line. He waits for his turn. He follows the rules with religious devotion. Deep down, he believes in an invisible cosmic karma bank. He tells himself, if I sacrifice enough, if I suffer enough, if I am good enough, the world will eventually pay me back. One day, he believes, the reward will arrive. One day, he will get the girl. One day, he will finally earn respect. But the reward never comes. The promotion doesn't go to the man who silently worked late every night. It goes to the man who demanded it. The woman doesn't fall for the man who worships the ground she walks on. She falls for the man who challenges her, excites her, and refuses to disappear into her shadow. The world does not respect the man with no boundaries. It respects the man who draws clear lines and defends them. And this is where the nice guy begins to rot. Beneath that polite smile and agreeable tone lives something dangerous. A volcano of repressed rage. In fact, the nice guy is often the angriest person in the room. He just doesn't know how to admit it. He becomes bitter, resentful, quietly furious. He feels cheated by life. After everything I did for them, he thinks, how could they treat me like this? So the anger leaks out sideways. He becomes passive. He becomes sarcastic. He withdraws. He sulks. He punishes people with silence instead of honesty, because his niceness was never a gift. It was a loan. And now he is trying to collect a debt that no one ever agreed to repay. If you recognize yourself in this description, understand this clearly. I am not here to tell you that you are enough, or that the world simply doesn't appreciate you. Comfort will not save you. I am here to tell you the truth. You are the problem. Your strategy has failed. Your map is outdated. You are running software written for a terrified 5-year-old boy trying to survive in a ruthless adult world. And that strategy is destroying your attraction. It is poisoning your career. And most importantly, it is slowly killing your soul. So we are going to perform surgery. Over the course of this series, we will dissect the nice guy pathology piece by piece. We will examine the childhood conditioning that shaped you, how your parents, your teachers, and the school system rewarded obedience and punished authenticity, slowly breaking your spirit to make you manageable. We will expose the covert contracts you carry inside those unspoken deals, where you try to buy love through sacrifice and compliance. We will explore the biology of disgust, why your lack of grounded aggression makes people instinctively recoil from you, even if they can't explain why. And finally, we will guide you through the integration of the shadow. How to reclaim your aggression, your selfishness, and your power. Not to become a villain, but to become a whole, integrated man. The goal is not to become a bad boy or a jerk. That is merely the opposite extreme of the same immature coin. The real goal is to become real. To become a man who can say no without guilt. A man who can ask for what he wants without shame. A man who can endure the tension of being disliked. A man who is respected not because he is pleasing, but because he is formidable. That mask you've been wearing has grown heavy. It is suffocating you, and peeling it off will hurt. It may even feel like tearing skin, but it must be done. Welcome to the death of the nice guy. Welcome to your life, Chapter 1, The Origins of the Pathology. To solve the puzzle of the nice guy, we must first accept a fundamental truth. No baby is born a nice guy. No human infant enters this world with an instinct to suppress their needs, hide their emotions, or apologize for their existence. Look at a baby. When it is hungry, it screams. When it is happy, it laughs. When it is angry, it turns red and thrashes with fury. It does not scan the room to see if its emotions are inconvenient. It does not negotiate its needs. It does not feel shame for existing. That programming came later. That raw, screaming baby we talked about earlier is pure, unfiltered authenticity. Fully alive, fully expressed, completely unapologetic. So the real question is this: how does that wild, authentic infant turn into the anxious, neurotic, people-pleasing man we see everywhere today? It is not a genetic defect. It is not bad luck. It is a programming error. To understand this corrupted code, we must look at the two biological imperatives that govern the life of every child: attachment and authenticity. Attachment is the need to be close to a caregiver. For a human child, this is not just an emotional preference. It is a matter of survival. A gazelle can stand and run minutes after birth. A human child, by contrast, is helpless for years. If a child is rejected by its parents, it does not simply feel sad. It dies. It is that simple, and the brain knows this. Authenticity, on the other hand, is the need to be who you truly are, to follow your gut, to express anger, to explore curiosity, to say no, to say yes, to be loud, messy, emotional, and alive. In a healthy environment, a child never has to choose between these two needs. He can be authentic, and attachment is still guaranteed. He can throw a tantrum, ask difficult questions, express frustration, and his parents will still love him. They will still be there, but the nice guy was not raised in a healthy environment. He was raised in a world where he was forced to make a catastrophic choice. Very early in life, he learned that he could not be both real and loved, so he made the only choice that ensured survival. He amputated his authenticity in exchange for attachment. Let's look at the specific family dynamics that manufacture nice guys. Dr. Robert Glover, the pioneer in this field, identified two primary archetypes of toxic parenting that reliably produce this pathology. The first is the volatile or absent father. If the father was angry, unpredictable, hypercritical, or emotionally explosive, the boy learned a simple survival rule: be invisible. He learned that men are dangerous. He learned that having needs, making noise, or expressing aggression was like poking a sleeping bear. So he became the good boy. He became quiet. He became agreeable. He became excellent at reading the room. He developed an emotional radar, constantly scanning for shifts in mood, tension, or danger before it erupted. Somewhere deep in his nervous system, he made a silent vow: if I am perfect, if I am quiet, if I ask for nothing, then Dad won't hurt me. The second archetype, and this one is far more common in the modern world, is the enmeshed mother. This occurs when the father is emotionally absent, weak, passive, or physically gone. The mother, feeling lonely, overwhelmed, and unseen, turns to her son to meet emotional needs that should have been met by an adult partner. She makes her son her little man. She tells him, "You're so much better than your father. You're so sensitive. You really understand me." On the surface, this sounds like love, but in reality, it is emotional incest, and it places an unbearable burden on a child's nervous system. The boy learns that he is responsible for his mother's happiness. If she is sad, it must be his fault. If she is angry, he failed. And slowly, quietly, he absorbs the most dangerous lesson of all. "My needs hurt people to be a good person," he concludes. "I must ignore my own desires and focus entirely on the emotions of others." So he becomes a chameleon. He suppresses his rough, masculine energy because it scares his mother. He tones himself down. He softens his edges. He creates a false self, a carefully constructed mask designed to keep mommy calm, pleased, and emotionally stable. But the programming does not end at home. As the boy grows older, he enters the second major factory of niceness, the modern school system. And we need to be honest about this, because the same pattern continues. That early conditioning doesn't stop inside the home. It follows the boy into the outside world and hardens there. The modern education system, by its very structure, is designed to punish masculinity. Boys are naturally energetic, competitive, aggressive, and kinetic. They learn through movement. They learn by testing limits, by pushing boundaries, by feeling their bodies in space. Yet schools demand the exact opposite. Sit still for 7 hours a day. Stay quiet. Raise your hand. Repeat what you were told. Behavior that is natural for a boy is quickly labeled as a problem, a disorder, or something toxic. Meanwhile, behavior that is natural for girls is praised, rewarded, and encouraged. Again and again, the boy receives the same message. There is something wrong with you. Stop running. Use your inside voice. Why can't you be more like your sister? Over time, this message sinks deep. He internalizes a profound sense of toxic shame. He begins to believe that something is fundamentally broken inside him. My core self is bad, he concludes. Therefore, I must hide it. So he starts constructing a new personality. One that pleases teachers. One that pleases parents. One that he hopes will someday please girls. He becomes a master performer. He no longer does his homework to learn. He does it to be a good boy. He doesn't help his friends because he genuinely wants to. He helps them to by safety, approval, and acceptance. By the time this boy reaches his mid-20s, the concrete has hardened. The mask has fused to his face. He steps into the adult world using a survival map that was drawn when he was 5 years old. Pause for a moment and think about how insane this really is. He walks into a boardroom negotiation with the emotional strategy of a terrified child trying to please an angry father. He enters romantic relationships with the strategy of a little boy trying to soothe a lonely mother. He believes, if I hide my needs, they will love me. If I don't cause trouble, I will be safe. If I do everything right, I will be rewarded. But the adult world is not his parents' house. In the adult world, if you hide your needs, you don't get loved. You get ignored. In the adult world, if you avoid conflict, you don't get safety. You get disrespected. And in the adult world, performance without boundaries is not virtue. It is slavery. The nice guy is a man walking through a war zone holding a teddy bear, wondering why he keeps getting shot. He cannot see that the agreement he made with the universe will be a good boy, and you will give me a smooth life as a contract that exists only in his own head. He became quiet. He became agreeable. He became excellent at reading the room. He developed an emotional radar, constantly scanning for shifts in mood, tension, or danger before it erupted. Somewhere deep in his nervous system, he made a silent vow: if I am perfect, if I am quiet, if I ask for nothing, then Dad won't hurt me. The second archetype, and this one is far more common in the modern world, is the enmeshed mother. This occurs when the father is emotionally absent, weak, passive, or physically gone. The mother, feeling lonely, overwhelmed, and unseen, turns to her son to meet emotional needs that should have been met by an adult partner. She makes her son her little man. She tells him, "You're so much better than your father. You're so sensitive. You really understand me." On the surface, this sounds like love, but in reality, it is emotional incest, and it places an unbearable burden on a child's nervous system. The boy learns that he is responsible for his mother's happiness. If she is sad, it must be his fault. If she is angry, he failed. And slowly, quietly, he absorbs the most dangerous lesson of all. My needs hurt people. To be a good person, he concludes, I must ignore my own desires and focus entirely on the emotions of others. So he becomes a chameleon. He suppresses his rough, masculine energy because it scares his mother. He tones himself down. He softens his edges. He creates a false self, a carefully constructed mask designed to keep Mummy calm, pleased, and emotionally stable. But the programming does not end at home. As the boy grows older, he enters the second major factory of niceness, the modern school system. And we need to be honest about this, because the same pattern continues. That early conditioning doesn't stop inside the home. It follows the boy into the outside world and hardens there. The modern education system, by its very structure, is designed to punish masculinity. Boys are naturally energetic, competitive, aggressive, and kinetic. They learn through movement. They learn by testing limits, by pushing boundaries, by feeling their bodies in space. Yet schools demand the exact opposite. Sit still for 7 hours a day. Stay quiet. Raise your hand. Repeat what you are told. Behavior that is natural for a boy is quickly labeled as a problem, a disorder, or something toxic. Meanwhile, behavior that is natural for girls is praised, rewarded, and encouraged. Again and again, the boy receives the same message. There is something wrong with you. Stop running. Use your inside voice. Why can't you be more like your sister? Over time, this message sinks deep. He internalizes a profound sense of toxic shame. He begins to believe that something is fundamentally broken inside him. My core self is bad, he concludes. Therefore, I must hide it. So he starts constructing a new personality. One that pleases teachers. One that pleases parents. One that he hopes will someday please girls. He becomes a master performer. He no longer does his homework to learn. He does it to be a good boy. He doesn't help his friends because he genuinely wants to. He helps them to buy safety, approval, and acceptance. By the time this boy reaches his mid-20s, the concrete has hardened. The mask has fused to his face. He steps into the adult world using a survival map that, was drawn when he was 5 years old. Pause for a moment and think about how insane this really is. He walks into a boardroom negotiation with the emotional strategy of a terrified child trying to please an angry father. He enters romantic relationships with the strategy of a little boy trying to soothe a lonely mother. He believes, if I hide my needs, they will love me. If I don't cause trouble, I will be safe. If I do everything right, I will be rewarded. But the adult world is not his parents' house. In the adult world, if you hide your needs, you don't get loved. You get ignored. In the adult world, if you avoid conflict, you don't get safety. You get disrespected. And in the adult world, performance without boundaries is not virtue. It is slavery. The nice guy is a man walking through a war zone holding a teddy bear, wondering why he keeps getting shot. He cannot see that the agreement he made with the universe, I will be a good boy, and you will give me a smooth life, is a contract that exists only in his own head. And this is where the real suffering begins. The disconnection from his true self leaves him feeling empty, anxious, and permanently exhausted. He is an actor playing a role he despises for an audience that isn't even paying attention. He has amputated his own soul to fit into a box that was never meant to contain him. And the deepest tragedy of all, he believes this box is his personality. He says, I'm just a nice guy. No, you are not. You are a traumatized survivor who is still hiding from a danger that disappeared 20 years ago. You are a lion pretending to be a house cat because you were raised in a living room. But the jungle is calling, and the house cat strategy is no longer working to recover. We must return to the source. We must look at that terrified child and tell him, you are safe now. You don't have to perform anymore. You can put the mask down, but removing the mask exposes the one thing the nice guy fears more than anything else, his own shadow. Chapter 2: Covert Contracts and the Transactional Heart. If Chapter 1 was the diagnosis of the childhood wound, Chapter 2 is the exposure of the crime. And make no mistake, the nice guy's strategy is a crime. It is a crime of deception committed against the very people he claims to love. At the center of the nice guy's psychology lies a mechanism that Dr. Robert Glover calls the covert contract. To understand this, imagine a vending machine. You insert a coin, you press a button, and a soda drops down. At the center of this problem is the hidden deal he never admits he is making. For the nice guy, human relationships operate like a simple machine. Input leads to output, just like a vending machine. You insert a coin, press a button, and expect a reward to fall out. This is exactly how he views people. His covert contract sounds like this: I will do something for you that you never asked for, and in return, you will give me what I want. So he listens to a woman complain about her ex-boyfriend for 3 straight hours. Not because he enjoys the conversation, not because he genuinely wants to support her. He is inserting a coin into the machine. He believes that patience, attention, and emotional labor will eventually buy him access to her heart. He covers for his lazy coworker, not because it is his responsibility or because it aligns with his values. He is inserting another coin. He expects that this sacrifice will buy him protection from criticism or a favor in the future. But here is the catch, and this is why it is called covert. He never tells anyone about the contract. He never says, I am listening to you for 3 hours because I want to sleep with you. He never says, I am doing your work because I want you to owe me. Instead, he keeps the contract folded neatly in his pocket, hidden, unspoken, And when the other person, who has no idea this contract even exists, fails to repay him in the currency he expects, the nice guy doesn't just feel disappointed, he feels enraged. This is the dark secret no nice guy wants to face. Beneath the politeness, there is a deep reservoir of anger. He feels scammed by life. He looks around and thinks, after everything I did for them, after all the time I sacrificed, after how perfect I was, this is how they treat me. In his own mind, he becomes the victim, the martyr, a good man crucified by a selfish, ungrateful world. But the truth is far less flattering. He is not a victim. He is a manipulator whose manipulation failed. Let's examine the psychology of this transactional heart. When you give in order to get, you are not giving. You are trading. You are True generosity carries no expectation of return. It comes from abundance. It says, I have so much value that I can afford to share it freely. The nice guy's giving comes from scarcity. It whispers, I am empty. I will offer you this small service so that you will fill me up. And this creates a repulsive aura. Have you ever met a salesperson who pretended to be your friend just to sell you insurance? You can feel it immediately, can't you? That slimy tension, that hidden agenda behind the smile, that is exactly how the nice guy feels to women and to the world. People are far more intuitive than we like to believe. They can sense when kindness comes with a price tag. A woman can feel when a man is being nice just to get something from her. Attraction dies instantly. She feels unsafe. She feels reduced to a project instead of respected as a person. Worse still, covert contracts slowly destroy the nice guy's own character. Because he is always adjusting his behavior to get a specific result, he develops no core identity. No spine, no center. He becomes a shapeshifter. He agrees with a feminist if he thinks it will get him laid. He agrees with a conservative boss if he thinks it will get him promoted. He becomes whatever the room requires him to be. But a man who stands for nothing will fall for anything. And this is the final tragedy of the covert contract. It creates a self-fulfilling cycle of failure. First, you hide your needs so you can appear limited. Second, people assume you don't need anything, so they give you nothing. Third, you resent them for not reading your mind. Fourth, the resentment leaks out as passive-aggressive anger. Fifth, they feel confused and pull away. Sixth, you say, see? I knew everyone leaves me. To break this cycle, you must face the most terrifying task a nice guy can imagine. You must stop giving in order to get. You must burn the contracts. If you choose to do something kind, do it because you genuinely want to. Do it regardless of the outcome. Or don't do it at all once the covert contracts are burned. A different standard must take their place. If you hold the door open, do it because it aligns with your values. Do it because you are a gentleman, not because you want her to smile, not because you want approval. And if she ignores you, it should not disturb your inner balance at all. The action was for your standard, not her reaction. And when you want something, you must ask for it, explicitly, directly, boldly. I want a raise. I want to take you on a date. I am angry about what you said. The world respects a man who makes his intentions clear, even when the answer is no. What the world despises is a man who smiles politely while hiding a bill in his hand, silently waiting to be paid. Stop acting like a vending machine. Start acting like a man. Chapter 3. The Biology of Disgust. To understand why the nice guy strategy fails so catastrophically, we must step out of the comfortable, polite language of modern psychology and enter a far less forgiving place. The ruthless, bloody, and brutally honest world of evolutionary biology. We like to imagine ourselves as advanced, civilized beings living in glass towers and digital cities. But your brain is not modern. Your brain is ancient. It is a 2 million-year-old piece of hardware forged on the African savanna. It evolved in a world ruled by predators, scarcity, and constant tribal warfare. In that world, niceness defined as the inability to defend oneself, the avoidance of conflict, and the desperate craving for approval was not a virtue, it was a death sentence. And here lies the most painful truth the nice guy must confront. The reason people, especially women, do not respect you is not because they are cruel, shallow, or unfair. It is because you trigger a deep biological disgust response in their nervous system. To understand this, we must look through the lens of the female imperative for 99% of human history. A woman's survival depended directly on the man she chose. She needed a partner who could protect her from wild animals, from rival tribes, and from starvation. She needed a man with the capacity for aggression, the capacity for violence, and the spine to stand firm in the face of threat. When a woman looks at a man, her ancient brain is asking one fundamental question: can this man keep me safe? Now, look at the nice guy. He smiles when he is nervous. He apologizes when he has done nothing wrong. He avoids eye contact during conflict. He asks for permission to speak. He is terrified of offending anyone. What signal is he sending to her ancient brain? He is signaling, I am weak. I am submissive. I am prey. And to the female nervous system, a man who behaves like prey is not endearing. He is a liability. If you cannot protect your own boundaries against a rude waiter or an overbearing boss, how could you possibly protect her from the chaos of the world? You can't. This is why the nice guy so often gives women what they call the ick, that sudden, visceral wave of repulsion that appears without warning. It happens when a man tries too hard to please, when he is always available, when he agrees with everything she says. He believes he is being supportive. She feels like she is speaking to a child. When a man suppresses his own personality to gain approval, he silently forces the woman into the leadership role. He forces her to make decisions. He forces her to carry the masculine energy in the relationship. And while she may tolerate this imbalance for a time, resentment eventually replaces desire. Sexual polarity cannot survive in a vacuum of masculine authority. A harmless man offers no shelter. You cannot feel safe inside a house built of straw. But this pattern does not stop with women. After understanding why the nice guy often weakens himself in relationships, it's time to look deeper into the biological forces quietly driving all of this. The biological disgust toward the nice guy docile exists only in male-female dynamics. It runs just as deeply within the hierarchy of men themselves. Men naturally organize into structures based on competence and strength. Whether in an ancient hunting party, a modern corporate boardroom, or a sports team, men are constantly testing one another. They use banter that sounds harmless. They use debate. They use friction and conflict, not to dominate, but to measure what the man beside them is really made of. At a primal level, they are always asking one simple question: can I trust this man when things go wrong? And the nice guy fails this test almost immediately. Because he is addicted to approval, he won't speak the truth if it's unpopular. He won't defend a position if it creates tension. He slips away from conflict, always trying to keep everyone comfortable. To other men, the nice guy is dangerous not because he is aggressive, but because he is unreliable. A man who cannot say no to you today will not be able to say no to your enemy tomorrow. When pressure rises, he will fold. He will betray the group to save himself. That is why bullies target the nice guy. It isn't just cruelty. It is a biological mechanism. On a subconscious level, the bully is exposing the weakest link in the chain. The nice guy believes that if he is submissive enough, the alpha males will accept him and protect him. But nature doesn't work that way. In nature, submission does not buy protection. It invites exploitation. If you behave like a doormat, don't be surprised when people wipe their feet on you. That is exactly what doormats are for. So what is the solution? Do you have to become a brute? A tyrant? No, that is simply the opposite extreme, and it is just as weak. The tyrant is driven by fear, just like the nice guy. The real goal is to become what the Swiss psychiatrist Carl Jung called integrated. You must integrate the monster. You must descend into the dark basement of your psyche and confront your aggression. You must discover your capacity for selfishness. You must find your teeth. Jordan Peterson famously said, "A harmless man is not a good man. A good man is a very dangerous man who has that under voluntary control." Think about the difference between a domesticated dog and a wolf. A dog is nice because it has been broken. A wolf is not nice, but it can be loyal. It can be loving. And its love has value because it is a choice, not a biological necessity. You need to reclaim your capacity for maybe. When someone asks you for a favor, you must have the ability to say no. When someone disrespects you, you must have the capacity to escalate conflict if needed. When you want something, you must have the ability to move toward it and take it. Once you possess this capacity, once you could bite if you had to, you won't actually need to bite very often. People can sense it. It's an energy, an aura of When you stop needing approval, you stop emitting the scent of fear. Your posture changes, your voice drops, your eye contact lasts longer. You stop laughing at jokes that aren't funny. You stop filling silence with nervous chatter, and suddenly the biology flips. Instead of disgust, you trigger respect. Instead of the ick, you trigger attraction. Because now, you are no longer a safe, harmless child. You are a man who has chosen peace, but is capable of war. And that is the only kind of man the world has ever respected. Chapter 4. The Volcano of Repressed Rage. If you ask a nice guy to describe himself, the first word he will likely use is calm. He prides himself on being the peacemaker. He prides himself on his endless patience. He looks in the mirror and sees a saint tolerating the flaws of a chaotic world. But this image is a hallucination. If you could peel back the surface and look directly at the nice guy's nervous system, you would not see a calm lake. You would see a nuclear reactor on the verge of meltdown. Once you understand what happens when a man suppresses his power and chooses false peace, you begin to see where all that unexpressed energy actually goes. This brings us to the darkest paradox of this entire pattern. The nice guy is often the angriest person in the room. Not angry in the obvious way. A tyrant is angry loud, explosive, and impossible to ignore. He is angry in the way a prisoner is angry. Quiet, compressed, contained, a cold, pressurized resentment that slowly corrodes him from the inside out. To understand this rage, we need to understand the physics of emotion. Emotion is energy, and anger, specifically, is a biological fuel. It exists for one reason: to protect your boundaries. When someone crosses a line, your body releases adrenaline and cortisol, giving you the strength and urgency to push back. This is not a flaw. It is a survival mechanism, but the nice guy has been conditioned to believe that anger is dangerous. He has been taught that anger makes him toxic, unsafe, or no better than his abusive father. So when anger rises inside him, he does not express it. He suppresses it. He swallows it. The problem is simple but brutal. Energy cannot be destroyed. It can only be stored. Every time he says yes when he wanted to say no, he swallows a drop of poison. Every time he smiles at a boss who disrespects him, he swallows another drop. Every time he sacrifices his needs for a partner who does not appreciate it, he swallows more. Over 10, 20, even 30 years, this poison accumulates. It thickens. It settles. It becomes a heavy, toxic sludge called resentment. And resentment is the anger of the victim. It is the inner voice that whispers, "I have given so much, and I have received so little. The world owes me." Because the nice guy is terrified of conflict, he cannot express this anger directly, so the anger looks for another exit. Like water trapped under immense pressure, it finds the cracks. And it leaks out through the most destructive form of communication, known to man: passive aggression. Passive aggression is the weapon of the coward. It is the art of attacking without being accountable. It is warfare from the shadows. The nice guy doesn't scream at his wife. He simply forgets to do the thing she asked him to do. He doesn't confront his friend. He just shows up 30 minutes late. He doesn't say he's offended. He makes a sarcastic joke and then hides behind, "Relax, I was just kidding." He withdraws emotionally. He sulks. He creates a cold, heavy silence that punishes everyone in the room. And all the while, he convinces himself that he is innocent. "I didn't yell. I didn't hit anyone. I'm not aggressive." But the people around him feel it. They feel the hostility. They feel the tension. They feel like they're walking through a house filled with hidden landmines. This is why relationships with nice guys are so exhausting. You're fighting a ghost. You know something is wrong. You can feel the anger in the air. But when you name it, he denies it. He gaslights you with politeness. "I'm fine. Nothing's wrong. I'm just tired." This repression creates a vicious cycle of self-destruction. The nice guy forms covert contracts, silently expecting love, loyalty, or validation in exchange for his sacrifice. When the world doesn't pay up, he feels betrayed. This sense of victimhood feeds his rage. But because he still cannot express that rage openly, he doubles down on being nice, hoping to manipulate the outcome again. And the pressure builds, and builds, and builds. Eventually, the volcano must erupt. There are only two ways this story ends. The first is the explosion. One day, the nice guy finally snaps. And it's usually over something trivial: a dirty dish, a traffic jam, a misplaced remote. But the reaction is wildly disproportionate. He screams. He breaks things. He says things that cannot be taken back. The people around him are stunned. Where did this come from? They ask, and that question reveals the tragedy. It didn't come from nowhere. It had been building for decades. What finally explodes on the surface is never the real cause. It is only the last spark touching a powder keg that has been filling in silence for decades. It didn't come from the dirty dish. It didn't come from the traffic jam. It came from 20 years of swallowed words, crossed boundaries, and unspoken no's. This brings us to the second ending. Implosion. If the nice guy is too terrified to explode outward, the pressure turns inward. And when that happens, the body becomes the battlefield. The repressed rage does not disappear. It transforms. It shows up as depression, as anxiety, as chronic fatigue, as autoimmune disorders, as sexual dysfunction. The body sends a brutal message. If you will not fight the world, I will fight you. You cannot kill the warrior inside you. You can only chain him up in the basement. And a warrior chained in the dark does not fall asleep. He does not become peaceful. He goes insane. To heal, you must make friends with your anger. You must stop treating anger as a moral failure and start seeing it for what it actually is: information. Anger is data. It is a notification from your nervous system. A blinking red light on the dashboard that says, "Boundary breach detected." When you feel anger, something important has happened. Either someone has disrespected you, or you have betrayed yourself. And instead of shoving that signal down, instead of numbing it or intellectualizing it, you must listen to it. You must use it. This does not mean yelling. It does not mean violence. It means clarity. It means saying, calmly but firmly, "I don't like that. I am not okay with this. No." When you release the pressure valve in real time, the volcano goes dormant. The lava never needs to erupt because it never builds up. You stop accumulating resentment because you handle things as they happen. You become lighter. You become clearer. And here is the irony. Once you allow yourself to feel anger, you finally access the one thing you have been pretending to have all these years: true calm. Chapter 5. The Shadow Self. Jungian integration. We have diagnosed the disease. We have exposed the manipulation. We have acknowledged the rage. Now we arrive at the cure. And the cure is not what you think. Most self-help advice tells you to be more positive, to let go of anger, to focus on the light. This advice is useless for the nice guy. He has been focusing on the light his entire life, and all it has done is burn him to fix the nice guy. We must go into the dark. We must turn to the work of the Swiss psychiatrist Carl Jung and his concept of the shadow. Jung famously said, "One does not become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious." The shadow is made up of all the parts of yourself that were labeled bad, dangerous, or unacceptable when you were a child. And for the nice guy, the shadow is enormous. It contains his aggression, his selfishness, his sexuality, his ambition, his hunger for power, his capacity for cruelty. For 20 or 30 years, he has shoved these traits into a dark basement, locked the door, and pretended they don't exist. In their place, he presents a clean, polished persona to the world. A mask that says, "I am harmless, I am pure, I am good." But here is the law you cannot escape. The brighter the light, the darker the shadow. By denying your dark side, you have not destroyed it. You have only disconnected yourself from your own power source. Because the shadow is not just where your evil lives. It is where your power lives. Aggression is the same energy as drive. Sexual dominance is the same energy as creativity. Selfishness is the same energy as self-preservation. When you castrate your dark side, You castrate your ability to act in the world. You become soft. You become ineffective. You become impotent, not just sexually, but spiritually. You lose your edge. And without that edge, you cannot cut a path forward. When you cut yourself off from your shadow, you don't become peaceful. You become powerless. This is why so many nice guys feel lethargic, unmotivated, and quietly depressed. They have unplugged their own power source because they are afraid of the spark. The energy that should fuel their drive, their ambition, and their presence has been shut down at the wall. And here is the crucial distinction. The goal of recovery is not to become a bad person. The goal is integration. Integration means accepting a frightening truth about yourself. It means realizing, without flinching, that you are capable of terrible things and being honest about it. It means standing in front of the mirror and saying, I have the capacity to be a monster. I have the capacity to hurt people. I have the capacity to be selfish. To the nice guy, this sounds horrifying. His mind immediately panics. If I admit this, will I lose control? Will I become like my father? Will I turn into something dangerous? The answer is no. A monster you can see is a monster you can control. A monster you deny is a monster that controls you. The men who suddenly snap, who commit crimes of passion, who erupt without warning, these are almost never integrated men. They are repressed men. They are men who locked their shadow in the basement for decades until it broke the door down and took over. So how do you integrate the shadow? You start by stopping the war against yourself. You stop apologizing for your nature. You stop judging your own thoughts. When a dark thought enters your mind, a thought of vengeance, a thought of dominance, a thought of greed, you do not panic. You do not suppress it. You do not shame yourself and say, I'm a bad person for thinking this. Instead, you observe it. You acknowledge it. You say, I see you. You are a part of me. You do not have to act on the thought. You do not have to punch the man who cut you off in traffic. But you must allow yourself to feel the impulse to punch him. You must respect the part of you that wants to defend your territory. That respect is what keeps the impulse from becoming unconscious and destructive. This is the birth of the warrior archetype. A warrior is not a man who loves violence. A warrior is a man who has mastered it. In ancient cultures, young men were initiated into adulthood through rituals that forced them to confront fear, pain, and aggression. They were taught that violence is a tool. Dangerous, yes, but necessary. Something to be handled with discipline, not denied out of fear. The nice guy has no tool belt. He has only a smile. And you cannot build a life or defend a family with only a smile. When you integrate your shadow, something subtle but powerful happens to your presence. You develop gravitas. People can feel that there is more to you than what you show on the surface. They sense depth. They sense restraint. They sense that you are not harmless, and that is what makes your kindness real. If a man who is incapable of violence is kind to you, it means very little. He has no choice. His kindness is enforced by weakness. But if a man who is capable of destruction chooses to be kind, that is meaningful. That is mercy. That is strength under control. Women, in particular, are exquisitely sensitive to this difference. They do not want a man who is merely harmless. They want a man who is safe. Safe means, I trust him not to hurt me. Harmless means, he couldn't hurt anyone even if he tried. A woman cannot truly surrender to a harmless man. She cannot trust him to lead. On a primal level, She knows that if the world turns hostile, he will fold. She wants a monster who has been disciplined, a beast that has been trained, a man who still has his fangs, but knows when to sheath them. The process of integration is the process of growing your teeth back, and it starts small. Very small. Say no to a minor request today. Disagree with an opinion you don't respect. Buy something for yourself before you buy gifts for others. Let someone be disappointed in you and do not rush to fix it. Feel the tension. Feel the guilt clawing at you, trying to drag you back into submission. And then notice something important. The world did not end. The sky did not fall. You survived being selfish. You survived being not nice. And in that survival, you will discover a freedom you have never known. You are no longer a slave to being good. You are free to be whole. Chapter 6. The Art of Disapproval. Once you grow your teeth back, you must learn how to use them without apology. We have already explored the darkness of the shadow. Now comes the harder task. We must bring that power into the light of day. We must talk about the practical application of sovereignty. We must talk about boundaries. For the nice guy, the word boundary is abstract. He understands it intellectually. He can explain it in theory, but he cannot perform it in the body. When someone asks him for a favor he doesn't want to do, his mouth says yes before his mind even registers the request. It happens automatically. A reflex, a knee-jerk spasm of compliance. And if, on a rare occasion, he tries to say no, his body revolts. His heart starts racing. His palms sweat. His stomach tightens. A wave of nauseating guilt crashes over him. He feels like he has committed a moral crime, as if refusing a favor is equivalent to hurting someone. Why does a simple two-letter word trigger such a catastrophic physical reaction? Because to the nice guy, a boundary feels like an act of aggression. In his nervous system, drawing a line equals hurting someone else. Denying a request feels like breaking a sacred contract of goodness. He believes that being loved requires constant availability. But here is the truth you need to carve into the walls of your mind. A man without boundaries is not a man. He is a public utility. If your time, your energy, and your resources are available to anyone who asks, you have no value. Oxygen is free. Gold is rare. Oxygen is everywhere, essential and completely taken for granted. Gold is scarce, defined, and respected. You have made yourself oxygen to become gold. You must become scarce. This chapter is your training manual for the art of disapproval. Most people spend their entire lives trying to avoid disapproval. The nice guy runs from it like a disease. He sees it as danger. But the sovereign man understands something different. Disapproval is not a sign of failure. It is a sign of definition. If you stand for something, you will inevitably offend the people who stand for the opposite. If you have standards, you will inevitably disappoint those who do not meet them. And if nobody dislikes you, it does not mean you are kind. It means you do not exist. It means you are a ghost, drifting through life, agreeing with everyone, reflecting everyone, and being nothing. You must learn to tolerate the anxiety of being disliked. This is the gym for your soul. Every time you say no and someone gets upset, you are lifting a heavy weight. It burns, it feels wrong, but it builds the muscle of self-respect. So how do we break the yes reflex? First, you must stop explaining yourself. This is the most common trap. When a nice guy finally gathers the courage to say no, he immediately sabotages himself by offering a paragraph of excuses. I can't come because my car is acting weird, and I have to wake up early, and my cat is sick. Stop. When you explain, you are submitting. You are saying, I acknowledge that you have authority over my time. So here is my evidence for why I should be excused. You are handing the other person the power to judge your reason. And if they can solve your excuse, oh, don't worry, I'll pick you up. You are trapped. Now you must either comply or invent another lie. No is a complete sentence. I can't make it. That doesn't work for me. I'm not interested. These are statements of power. They are closed doors. There is no handle on the outside. You do not owe anyone an explanation for how you use your life. Second, you must master the pause. The nice guy is terrified of silence. Silence feels like tension, and tension feels dangerous. So he rushes to fill it with compliance. When someone pressures you, when they ask a loaded or manipulative question, do not answer immediately. Take a breath. Let the silence sit. Let it stretch. Let the other person feel it. That pause is where sovereignty lives. That pause you learned to hold is not empty space. It is where your authority is born. Look them in the eye. Count to 3. This small pause sends a powerful signal. It tells the other person that you are considering your own needs, not just reacting to theirs. It breaks the trance of obedience. It quietly communicates, I am not a vending machine. I am a deliberate actor. Third, you must prepare yourself for what comes next. The extinction burst. When you begin setting boundaries, the people around you will not applaud. They will resist. They have benefited from your lack of boundaries for years. You have been their servant, their emotional sponge, their safety net, their doormat. And when the doormat suddenly stands up and locks the door, people get angry. They will call you selfish. They will say you've changed. They will try to guilt-trip you back into submission. Do not panic. This is not a sign that you are doing something wrong. It is proof that you are finally doing something right. This reaction has a name. It is called an extinction burst. It is the tantrum a child throws when old manipulation tactics stop working. Stand your ground. Do not Do not apologize. Let them be angry. Let them be disappointed. This moment is the crucible. If you can hold your frame while someone you care about is upset with you, you have crossed a threshold. You have severed the umbilical cord. You are no longer a child seeking approval. You are a man defining his terms. Fourth, you must understand this paradox. Boundaries do not destroy respect. They create it. The nice guy believes that if he says no, people will leave him. The truth is the opposite. Think about the people you respect most in your life. Do they say yes to everything? Are they available at all hours? Do they apologize for their standards? No, they are guarded. They are selective. They are hard to access. And because they protect their value, others covet their value. When you start saying no, people may be irritated in the short term, but in the long term, they will respect you. They will know that when you say yes, it actually means something. If you say yes to everything, your yes is cheap. It is counterfeit currency. But if you say no to 90% of requests, your yes becomes a diamond. You are teaching people how to treat you. Every interaction is a training session. If you tolerate disrespect, you are training others to disrespect you. If you tolerate lateness, you are teaching them that your time has no value. If you tolerate emotional dumping, you are teaching them that you are a trash can. It is time to change the training manual. It is time to draw a line in the sand. This week, find small, controlled ways to practice the art of disapproval. Send food back if it's cold. End a phone call before the other person is finished. Walk away from a conversation that drains you. Tell someone, calmly, "I don't agree with that." Feel the heat rise in your chest. Feel the urge to apologize. Feel the fear of being disliked. And then dance single quotes, sit in the fire. Let it burn away the addiction to approval. From those ashes, forge the iron of self-respect. Chapter 7. The Rebirth of Sovereignty. We have arrived at the final stage of the metamorphosis. We have diagnosed the trauma. We have burned the covert contracts. We have awakened the biology of aggression. We have integrated the shadow. We have erected the walls of our boundaries. Now, we must look at what lives inside those walls, because the end goal of this journey was never just to stop being nice. What you are aiming for is not merely a rejection of your old self. It is not just about saying no more often or stopping certain behaviors. That is only a negation. The real goal is to become something positive. The goal is to become sovereign. The word sovereign is usually reserved for kings or nations. It means the supreme ruler. It means a state that answers to no external authority. A sovereign nation does not ask its neighbors for permission to build a road. It does not apologize for its borders. It governs itself by its own laws, on its own terms. For the nice guy, this represents a radical shift in consciousness. For his entire life, he has lived like a satellite. He has spent decades orbiting around other people, his parents, his partner, his boss, his friends. His direction has always been defined by their gravity. If they are happy, he feels safe. If they are angry, he starts to wobble. He has no gravity of his own. The sovereign man is not a satellite. He is a sun. He has his own mass. He creates his own gravity. He burns with his own purpose. People orbit him not because he demands it, not because he controls them, but because he is warm, he is bright, and he is stable. There is something grounding about him. To reach this state, you must undergo a psychological revolution. It is the shift of the point of origin. Most men live with an external point of origin. Before they act, they subconsciously ask, how will this be received? What will she think? Will this make me look good? Their reality is defined by the audience. They are actors on a stage, desperate for applause, adjusting every move to avoid boos. The sovereign man operates from an internal point of origin. He asks different questions. Does this align with my code? Do I want to do this? Is this true to who I am? He has fired the audience. The theater is empty. He is performing for an audience of one himself. And this brings us to the most difficult addiction you must break. The addiction to validation. The nice guy is a validation junkie. He needs a constant foredrip of approval, praise, and good boy credits just to feel like he exists. If a woman doesn't text him back, he crashes. If a boss criticizes him, he collapses. He has outsourced his self-esteem to the marketplace. Sovereignty means taking your self-esteem back in-house. You become the sole judge and jury of your own worth. If you did a good job, you know it. You don't need a pat on the head. If you live by your code, you are valuable. You don't need a woman to tell you that you are a catch. This is a terrifying kind of freedom. It means that if the entire world misunderstands you, but you know you are right, you can still sleep soundly. It means you stop explaining yourself. Explaining is a symptom of the external point of origin. You explain because you need the other person to agree with your reality. The sovereign man does not need agreement. His reality simply is. I am doing this. I am going there. This is who I am. Take it or leave it. And here we arrive at the paradox of attraction. The nice guy chases people because he needs them to complete him. He is half a person searching for another half. The sovereign man is whole. He needs nothing. And because he needs nothing, he becomes infinitely desirable. There is nothing more attractive to a woman, or to the world, than a man who is content in his own solitude. A man who can sit alone in a room and be at peace is a man who cannot be manipulated. You cannot threaten him with abandonment, because he is already whole. You cannot bribe him with attention, because he already has his own respect. This creates what can be called the open door policy. The nice guy locks the door and begs people to stay. He clings. The sovereign man leaves the door wide open. He says, "You are welcome to come in and share my warmth, but you are also free to leave. I will not chase you. I will not shrink or twist myself to fit through the door with you. I am here. I am solid. If you walk away, I will still be here." This is not arrogance. It is stability. It is the mountain versus the wind. The wind howls. It changes direction. It tries to provoke. The mountain does not argue with the wind. It simply stands. When you reach this state, the rage disappears. Remember the anger of the nice guy. It came from feeling owed. It came from covert contracts and unspoken expectations. The sovereign man has no contracts. He gives because he chooses to give, not because he expects a return. If he loves freely. If he helps generously. And if he does not want to help, he says, nonchalantly, calmly, without guilt. There is no sludge of resentment running through his veins. So how do you live this, day to day? You start by building a life that you respect. Not a life that looks good on Instagram. Not a life that makes your mother proud. A life that makes you proud when no one is watching. Chase a mission that scares you. Build a body that commands respect. Cultivate a mind that is sharp and disciplined. Fill your own cup until it overflows. When your cup is full, you stop begging others to fill it for you. You stop moving through life like a beggar with an empty bowl, asking for scraps of affection. You become the king at the banquet. You have enough for yourself and enough to share. This is the death of the boy. The boy needs a mummy. The boy needs permission. The boy needs to be told he is good. The man needs a mission. The man needs a code. The man validates himself. The transition is complete. You have killed the nice guy. You have buried the victim. You have integrated the monster. You have built the walls. And now you have taken the throne. The world is no longer something that happens to you. The world is something that happens through you. Walk tall. Look people in the eye. Speak your truth. And never, ever apologize for being who you are. You are free.